expecting a few additional folks, including one or two of our board members, so I'll try to introduce them later when they arrive. So I'm here really to thank everyone, those of you who are supporting our organization, raising awareness, and of course our panelists, and I'll say a little more about them in a moment. So Jeff Ogbar, Brandon Sherrod, Brad Watson, Lisa Dent, we're especially grateful to them for donating their time and thoughts to supporting Connecticut CASA and also the Center for the Study of Popular Music at UConn. So before we turn it over to moderator Professor Ogbar, I'd like also to acknowledge the board in particular. Those of you who are here, please raise your hands. You don't need to stand, but as I say, we're expecting a couple others. But thank you, those of you who are here. Really, of course, your leadership and guidance we depend on. It's helped us to grow as an organization. In terms of our advisory council, I think later we're going to have a couple members of that group joining us, so I'll say a little something then. Our ambassadors include Brandon and also Mie Oni, who tonight is out in the NBA Summer League playing on ESPN tonight, so you can check him out. And I think you'll see Brandon on ESPN in a couple of weeks with something called the basketball tournament. He's playing on an affectionately named team called the Nerd Team. So I can tell you about that. But let's also be sure to acknowledge our sponsors, and they include Claire's Cornucopia and Claire Criscolo personally, who's here with us, and also Yale University, the New Alliance Foundation, Russell Hall Company, and also the Wine Thief for donating the wine. So we certainly recognize all of them, and our many partners, including the Community Action Agency. Amos Smith is here, and I think several of his colleagues will be with us. The Community Foundation for Greater New Haven, Dottie Weston Murphy is here, and Connecticut Voices for Children, we have Lauren Ruth. So those are just a few examples of the many organizations, public and nonprofit, that we work with in the course of the CASA advocacy. Certainly, we have to thank our volunteers. Without them, we would not be doing the work we do, which is, it's at the core. It's court-appointed special advocacy for children, both in the protective supervision stage and in foster care. And I think that my colleagues on the staff and the board later on can tell you more about what we do. And we also have a continuous loop of our YouTube channel for those of you interested in learning more. I may say a little more about that afterward, because we certainly want to encourage additional volunteers to join us. I want to recognize a couple of special efforts that we have tonight from Lily and Sophia, who are high school students helping out, and our college interns, Annie and Tessa. Annie and Tessa are devoting much of their summer to helping us. So we're a lean, small staff, and we depend on their efforts to grow as well. So thank you, Annie, Tessa. And I have to thank, I'm sorry for this long litany of thanks, but I know that once we're underway, after the panel, and after Brandon's singing especially, we're going to be on a high note. No one's going to want to hear a long list of thank yous. So that's why I want, while we have kind of a captive audience, to recognize people. And it flows into what we're going to be discussing later, because my two professional colleagues, one of whom is hosting us here tonight, have really helped us to grow as an organization in just the past year, not even a year since they joined us. Catherine Ramirez Mejia and Valerie Dantes, please raise your hands. Catherine is heading up our new court in Waterbury, our efforts there, and also is our technology maven, for example, creating the QR code that you can scan for the bios tonight, among many other things. And Valerie is also a program coordinator, and she had experience as both a CASA volunteer and a CASA staff person in Dallas CASA, which is one of the most established in the whole network around the country. So she's played a key role in our supervision of advocates, our quality control, and data management, really helping us to build capacity along with Catherine. So I must acknowledge them, and certainly Catherine, Valerie and her husband Arnie for hosting us tonight. That's extraordinary to open up your house. Before the panel begins, I want to say a little something about our work. And there really isn't time to do justice to it. As I mentioned, we're serving kids both in foster care and protective supervision. And we encourage you to look at our YouTube channel, which is here, our website, our other social media channels for more information. You should know that the CASA approach is associated with better outcomes for children and for more resources and services for them and their families. That is our aim, to help children find a safe, permanent home where they're more likely to thrive. And this National CASA network in virtually every state around the country gives us the capacity and a kind of proven approach that we can work with. And we're already doing that in New Haven and Waterbury here. So if you know anyone who might be interested in joining us as a volunteer, our volunteers range in age from their 20s to their 70s, and we look forward to continuing to grow, not only in New Haven and Waterbury, but statewide. And our training is now remote, so it's quite efficient. We've had people from nearly every county around the state already training to be volunteers and prepared to drive some distance. But as we grow to additional courts, certainly we'll reach more fully around the state.
Josiah, how many volunteers do you have?
We currently have around 75 volunteers.
And how many do you need to make
Well, our aim eventually is to have hundreds. So to give you a sense of the scale, there are 8,000 kids in a given year under the court's protection. And actually before COVID it was over 10,000. So there's been a drop of around 25%, and in New Haven alone over 1,000, and Waterbury alone over 1,000. So those two courts combined for 30% of the statewide number. So we'd like to have several hundred volunteers in New Haven and Waterbury alone, serving potentially up to 1,000 or more kids, and then expand to additional courts around the state as we have the resources. And I'll say a little something maybe later about some important new financial support that we're receiving, Lindy, that will be public news next week. We're going to do a news release. But I think I better turn it over to our panel. I think Jeff Ogbar, our moderator, is going to introduce his panelists in more detail, and you have their bios. We have a printout as well as the QR code that you can scan. So I'll just say in terms of Jeff Ogbar personally, as you'll see from his bio, he's an accomplished historian. He's been a leader on the faculty at UConn for many years. And he also is the founding director of the Center for the Study of Popular Music there at UConn, which is a co-beneficiary of this event. And Jeff's latest book project for Basic Books addresses the history of white nationalism in the shaping of Atlanta. And unfortunately, very timely topic. So Jeff's work will relate directly to what the panel will be addressing in a broader cultural sense. And I'll also add that Jeff is a friend. So really grateful to have him here and look forward to hearing what the panelists have to say. And then at the end, to Brandon's musical performance too. So thank you.
Thank you.